जया गोपी जना भालाभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजना जमुना तीरा वनचारी जमुना तीरा वनचारी जया राधा मदाभा कुंज बिहारी जया राधा मदाभा कुंज बिहारी Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद् His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Shata Shishimad His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Grantara Shrimad Bhagavatam ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to Shishiguru and Shigoranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, entitled Liberation, Chapter 10, entitled The Pastimes of Lord Ramacandra, text number 29. Sri Sukha Uvacha Swanam Bibhishanas Chakre Koshalendra Numoditaha Pitrimeda Vidhanena Jat Uktan Saparajikam Swanam Bibhishanas Chakre Koshalendra Numoditaha Pitrimeda Vidhanena Jak Uktan Samparijikam Swanam Bibhishanas Chakre Koshalendra Numoditaha Pitrimeda Vidhanena Yat Uktan Samparajikam. Please chant. Sri Sukha Uvacha. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, Swanam, of his own family members, Bibhishana, the brother of Ravana and devotee of Lord Ramacandra, Chakre, executed, Koshala Indra Anumoditaha, approved by the king of Koshala, Lord Ramacandra. Pitrimeda Vithanena, by the funeral ceremony performed by the son after the death of his father or some family member. Yat uktam, which has been prescribed. Samparajikam, duties to be performed after a person's death to save him from the path to hell. The path to hell. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, Vibhishan, the pious brothers of Ravana and the devotee of Lord Ramacandra, receive approval from Lord Ramacandra, the king of Koshala. Then he performed the prescribed funeral ceremonies for his family members to save them from the path to hell. Purport. After giving up the body, one is transferred to another body. But sometimes, if one is too sinful, he is checked from transmigrating to another body, and thus he becomes a ghost. To save a deceased person from ghostly life, the funeral ceremony or Shraddha ceremony is prescribed in authorized Shastra. Must be performed. Ravana was killed by Lord Ramacandra and was destined for hellish life. But by Lord Ramachandra's advice, Vibhishan, Ravana's brother, performed all the duties prescribed in relation to the dead. Thus, Lord Ramacandra was kind to Ravana even after Ravana's death. Sri Sukha Uvacha Swanam Vibhishanash Chakre Koshalendra Numoditaha Pitrimeda Vidhanena Yat Uktan Samparajikam. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, Vibhishana, the pious brother of Ravana and the devotee of Lord Ramacandra, received approval from Lord Ramacandra, the king of Koshala. Then he performed the prescribed funeral ceremonies for his family members to save them from the path to hell. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jananyana Shirakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pasaya Bhutale Srimate Ramapada Swami Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirveshesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Panchakalpa Tarubhyasha Kripa Sindhu Vyayevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. So, today we're going to speak about ghost, which is, in the modern context, is a very mystifying subject matter. Scary too. Especially, you can start to see, with driving in the highway, you start to see the advertising already, because there's a whole industry for thrills, some sort of entertainment, because the people of the present Kali Yuga, they find that if you scare yourself to death, it's an experience that people find it, thrilling, and thus it becomes, a big, entertainment industry. So not only we have horror movies, poltergeist, disco things, you know, the most scary one, possibly the most scary horror movie that was ever made was called The Exorcist. It was back in the 70s. For some of us who lived that time, people were freaking out. I mean, right now, as Kali Yuga advanced, you know, it's just a thrill. You know, you scare yourself to death, it's a thrill. But back then, when this movie came out, it was the most scary experience for people. People were actually, you know, it was a really terrible experience. Some people would vomit, got sick in movie theaters. It was, you know. So basically, being possessed by an evil spirit. And then that concept, you know, was very, 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 very scary. So we have this industry that is taking this thrill of the unknown, ghosts, and the effect that ghosts have. So we have advertisement for what is it called? The haunted houses, because in a couple of months, by the end of October, then there is the, how is it called? The Halloween. So during Halloween, basically, culturally, somehow or other, I don't know how, is that in this particular culture, this it's like a festival, it's like a yearly festival for this culture. I think this is exclusively to the America, to US, right? They do it in the UK. They do it, well, but it originated here, right? So that there's this sort of worship of the ghosts, of the dead. And it becomes, you know, like children's get involved, and it's fun, you know, to see everybody with gory blood and thing, and like that. You dress your kid in you know, like a ghost, and, you know, with scars, like a zombie, you know, now Walking Dead, you know, type of thing. When I was a kid, we have in my country Carnival, which was also some sort of a strange celebration too. Just the word carnival in itself means, you know, flesh, comes from that root. This is in South America. And Brazil is very famous for this carnival. Carnival comes from the word carne. Carne in Spanish means flesh. So it's a celebration of the flesh. I mean, the connotations are a little weird. But nevertheless, for us, it was, you dress, you know, you put a costume. And the costumes that we have, my favorite costume was Zorro. You know, the character with a little mustache, you know, and the sword, you know, a Spanish guy who was, you know, Zorro. Yeah? My brother used to dress as Robin, you know, Batman's, you know, companion. And, you know, my cousins, like a princess, and thing, you know, it was like more innocent, but right, you know, the carnival of, in the US is that you dress like a ghost, like a zombie, like, you know, the evil, you know, things like that. People also dress, you know, other more simple, innocent costumes, but, you know, this, the worship of the dead. So anyway, ghost is a very mystifying subject matter for this society. It is explained that I think 29% of Americans believe in ghosts, for sure. Like, ghost is a reality. The majority, doesn't make sense. Because science, the scientific world is not provable. It is something that it doesn't fit the scientific reality. It's something that the modern scientific concept doesn't make sense of ghosts. Because science is focused on one phase of existence, which is the corporal phase of existence, the things that you can experience and touch, physical stuff. So they studied the physical stuff, and then according to that, that's the reality. A reality that is beyond the physical stuff, more subtle reality, is they cannot understand. Like, the concepts of consciousness is something that is beyond the mainstream science. So to explain this phenomena of ghosts, it doesn't fit that physical reality, because the fact is that ghosts doesn't exist in the physical world. It doesn't have a physical form. It's a subtle form. So we understand from the teachings of the scriptures, from the Vedas, that there is these three levels of being, of existence in this world, in the material world. We have the gross level, or the physical level, that is made of these material elements, the 5 gross material elements. And for a living entity, spirit, for a living entity, we have this physical body. And with the physical body, we experience the world. We have the senses, and with the senses, we experience the world. So there's a gross body. And then there's a subtle body. It's also explained that the subtle body is made of the 3 subtle elements, material elements: mind, intelligence, and false ego. And a false ego being a material element that is what is called false ego, because it's the misidentification of the self with the gross body. And so these subtle elements are not perceived by the senses or through the body. It's subtle. And then the third one is the spiritual. It's the spiritual level of existence, or the spiritual being, which is the spirit soul, the source of consciousness that exists, that is with the proper spiritual identification, or the real ego, and exists in a transcendental space that is non-material. So in general, it's explained that a conditioned soul, like the Bhagavad Gita explained, the hinosmin yata dehe kaumaranja varanjara, that we're transmigrating from one body to another at the time of death, according to one's karma, according to one's actions. One's receive a body, and it's a process that is pretty much linear in that way, that when Krishna explains dehinos minyata dehe, is that from childhood to youth to adulthood, old age, and just in the same way that we've been changing this body in a linear way, at the time of death, we just take another body. And that body is given to us according to our actions. It's already predestined. When Arjuna in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita asks, what is karma? Krishna defines karma as the activities or the result, the actions that give us a material body. So the material body that we receive is according to our karma. So the transmigration is like that. And the ghost situation is a very particular situation that happens to living entities, and Prabhupada explains here, that are too sinful. There's more to it. In other parts, Prabhupada explains people that are very attached, either too sinful or adharmic, or extremely attached, or especially people who become ghosts are people that commit suicide. So their karma is not completed to receive the next body, so they remain as ghosts for some time. So what is a ghost? Is when you're checked, your transmigration is checked. So you don't receive a physical body, and you remain in your subtle body for a particular period of time. And it's extremely hellish and terrible situation. There's explanations also, other people that receive ghost bodies. There's one particular scripture that explains in more detail about ghosts. And still one of the Puranas that is in the mode of goodness, the Garuda Purana. There's some devotees that have written about it, and they quote, the Garuda Purana. I think I'm going to read, some of the this conversation that happens between Lord Vishnu and Garuda, in which Garuda is asking about ghosts. Why? And who are? And why, there's, we get to hear from Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita that there is a planet of ghosts, Bhutaloka, right? So those who worship the ghosts goes to that planet, right? Krishna says. So there's a planet, or there's a loka, and a region in which ghosts lives. And it is explained that during the day, they're in that realm, in that place. And at night, they descend into this realm and they become active. They become especially active during the sandhyas, or, during the morning hours that before it becomes day, like around Mongol Arctic time. That's prime time for ghosts. So, and they become very attractive, or they thrive in areas, in spaces in which the mode of ignorance is prevalent. So people who are intoxicated or lazy, or or live a life, a very mode of ignorance type of life. That I remember there was a period of time in which for kids it was basically you live at night. Especially I was in the music business, industry. So as a musician, there was and there's a whole scene of artists that you just live at night and they sleep during the day. So sleeping at night and living that type of mode of ignorance type of life is prime for being a victim of ghosts. So the existence of a ghost is a very hellish one. It's hellish because imagine having all the desires that a very uncontrolled living entity could have. All the desires to satisfy the senses. This, the Guru Maharaj, often quote this what is it I say? Sat Trishtan, you remember? That is thirst for material enjoyment. Imagine having that intense thirst for material enjoyment, but you don't have the means or the body to be able to experience it. So it's very frustrating. And therefore, part of ghost business, most of them, is to try to enter into a body that is very vulnerable by the mode of ignorance, and through that body, you sort of trying to experience something with the physical body of this ignorant entity. So sometimes that's when you have, sometimes it happens with, I know in the temple, sometimes we have those situations that as new devotees you get, and actually in regular people have, I think most people have the experience of a bad dream, that that you can wake up from this bad situation, that you go in the dream and almost you become conscious that you want to wake up but you can. I don't know if anyone has experienced that. And we, before becoming a devotee, was like, well, it's a bad dream. It's just what happens in bad dreams. You have a nightmare. Wake up, it's a nightmare, you're fine. A nightmare is a nightmare, it's just part of life. But when I became a devotee and I have those experiences, then the devotees explain, usually that's when as a new devotee, you're not accustomed to Mongol Artik, so we wake up from Mongol Artik and then go to Mongol Artik and very tired. After Mongol Artik finish, chant 1 or 2 rounds and then go up to the ashram and take a nap until 7. So you're sleeping during those hours of, the sandhya from 5 to 7. And, your mind is still not very strong. And then you're a perfect victim. And when I was as a devotee, the Brooklyn Temple was very haunted. It was, just that area around Brooklyn around that time. Just imagine Brooklyn in the 80s. It was heavy duty. Right now it's like Manhattan, so it's very slick. Back then, we have in front of the Brooklyn Temple, so across was a crazy house. It's a huge building that housed mentally ill people. Ghost heaven. Around the corner, there was a shelter. Homeless people that, would have a place to sleep sometimes, and, they come ghost heaven. And then all around the thing, it was thieves and, crooks, like homeless guy, crazy people, prostitutes, drug dealers. That was the area where, the temple was back then. It was pretty intense. So there was a lot of ghosts floating in the area. So you were, you were an easy victim. And especially one of the things that happens to many of the devotees was that these possessions, or when these ghosts will enter you and hold you, in general, would turn to be, they put you to some sensual experience, sexual. So, it can very easily end in having a full, what they call the wet dream, like that. And don't mind to be too graphic on this thing, but it's a reality, it happens. And it was a problem sometimes with the devotees, to the point that during that time, there was one devotee from Mayapur, one of those, Bengali devotees who was a Brahmana by birth, and he knows all these rituals and this thing. And he had this whole yagya to eliminate ghosts from the temples. He was called the Ghostbuster. Who you gonna call? Then, you call the guy. And so he was touring the whole ISKCON world. So he was famous, the Ghostbuster, just like, Ranad Maharaj is coming to Chicago Temple and blah, blah, or, Rupa Swami is going to be, like that. Indra Dumya Swami is coming, so, Bibi Govinda Maharaj is coming like that. The Ghostbuster is coming, so everybody's preparing, so, And so that time the Ghostbuster came to New York, and then he performed this big yagya, through the night. So, we were like all intrigued. The whole temple devotees, were like around 12 at midnight, with this thing, this guy, with some incense, going around the building, and some pick of feathers, fanning people and hitting people. It's like, it was a pretty colorful arrangement. Anyway, he supposedly got rid of the ghosts. But yes, they because of their frustration, the point is having no means of satisfying the desires, they become a very how you say, obnoxious or negative element. Sometimes they can be very dangerous because they're not only frustrated, but with frustration, what happens when your desires are frustrated? Where does it go? To anger, to wrath. So they become resentful. And they thrive, they take pleasure in seeing suffering, obstacles, pain, and that type of thing. So we see that people that commit suicide, sometimes they hearing voices. Sometimes even we self, I have experience sometimes on being in some situation that you hear something comes into your mind that pops. You, what? Where is it comes? Like a jump or something, like that, And so it is explained that people who are very emotionally weak and vulnerable, they can be influenced by ghosts to do something harmful to themselves. And so this ghostly instinct is extremely hellish. This is something that is saying in these scriptures of who become a ghost. Let's see here. Yeah. A person who underwent a violent death, like suicide or something extremely violent, that it was very unexpected, they can become a ghost. Some people, and other people, is people who live wrongly against Dharma, thus creating a negative karma. Very sinful people, they can remain as ghosts. Or persons who are attached to his family, living place, etc. They become ghosts after leaving the physical body. I'm going to, because I find it fascinating, although it's not one of the books that Prabhupada gave us, it is one of the Puranas, and I'm quoting it from source devotees who have, go through this, and especially there's one devotee who is he came here, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. He have written about these things, so this is some of the things that have been quoted. So this is a conversation in the Garuda Purana with Garuda. I read, so it's very fascinating, and give us a more Vedic view of this level of existence of ghostly beings, and where do they go, and what happens, and how it happens, and what do they do, and how we can become free from their influence. It's basically, if you live the life of sadhana bhakti and you perform sadhana bhakti, your ghost is, it becomes, there's no influence, So Garuda said, having obtained a new body, where does a preta means ghost, shelter, released from pretahood, where does he go to live in? So after ghostly life, what happened to them? Passing through torments in hell, which number 84 lakhs, and guarded by Yamaraj and his 1,000 attendants, how do the pretas get released, and how do they roam about in this mortal world? The Lord said, O kings of birds, hear me. I shall tell you about the region where the pretas live. Men obtain pretahood by stealing other man's riches, by indulging in sexual intercourse with another man's wife, and by doing acts of treachery. Having incurred sins, they seek for redemption in their progeny. Being bodiless, as well as suffering from hunger and thirst, they roam about here and there. Even the captives released from prisons are frightened at their sight. They seek for means to kill their kith and kin. What is a kith? K-I-T-H. You know that word? Family? Okay, another word for family. They bolt doors on their ancestors, put obstacles in the way of manes, departed forefathers. Like thieves, they snatch the manes food in a way before it reaches them. So they create all kinds of mischief. They like to return to their previous home, stay on the roof, and watch the activities of their king. They enjoy causing disease and grief to their relatives. Having assumed a form of changing nature 13, and such like fevers, they cause disease due to cold or wind, like the headache or cholera. They stayed at dirty places like that where refuge is left, and enjoy in the company of other ghosts, and partake the ways of food and drink left out unattended by their hosts. One thing that I remember we were told. That's why the principle of cleanliness is so important. Because I remember these devotees, one of the things that we were trained is that cutting your nails and, in your room or any place that is not, that you don't, the bathroom, all this sort of remains and things like that, hairs and nails and dirt, things like muchi stuff. Those are prime attractors of ghosts because they like to feed on those things. In this way, the sinful pretas move about freely, Garuda said. Time it is, we have a little more time. How do the pretas behave and in what form? How is it possible to know their attitudes since the pretas do not speak to us? If you're pleased to do me a favor, you clear away my doubts. O Lord, I heard that in the Kali Yuga, many people become ghosts. The ghost tormented his family members through various enemies. While he was in the human form, he was affectionate to his relative, but now, in the ghosthood, he is inimical and hostile towards them. He who is devoted to Rudra follows the paths of righteousness, honors the Supreme Lord Vishnu and the Devas, satiates guests, speak the truth and pleasant words, is not tormented by pretas. He who does not observe sacrificial and purificatory rites, who has no faith in the Vedas, hates righteous deeds, and indulges in falsehood, is tormented by the pretas. Furthermore, by these unrighteous acts, one becomes himself a preta in the Kali Yuga. From the Satya Yuga to the end of Dwapara Yuga, nobody became a preta, nor did anyone suffer from their evil influence. It is observed that of many children born of one and the same mother, one child is happy, one is addicted to bad habits, one is blessed with good progeny, one is tormented by pretas, one abounds in wealth, one gets a son who died young, one is burdened with the offspring of many daughters, one is constantly with daggers drawn towards his relative. This is all due to the bad intentions of pretas or Garuda. A woman who remains without husband but still makes children, or one who becomes barren in life, or give birth to children that died at an early age, there is loss in wealth and cattle. All these are suffering caused by pretas. If there is a sudden change in a person's nature, or a sudden enmity with his relative, or unexpected calamity, that suffer should be known to be doing by a preta. If a person loses faith in religion, or if he loses the means of livelihood, or if he feels greedy in excess for food or acquiring material things, or if there is a regular quarrel at home, that suffering should be known to be caused by a preta. If he slays his parents or reproaches God or the Brahmanas, and is found guilty of murder and the like, these are all symptoms of pretas. When crops do not grow up, though there are sufficient rains and good soil, when the expenditures go up and income is reduced, when quarrels rise in gravity and severity, again these should be recognized as the doings of pretas. When on travels to foreign land, he is distressed by an unknown rush of wind, O Lord of birds, that suffering is due to pretas. So these guys are very heavy, no? When one associates with people of low caste, or when one performs disreputable acts, lying, cheating, stealing, or worse, and where he is interested in acts of unrighteousness, meat eating, illicit sex, gambling, intoxication, liquor, drinking, alcohol, smoking, taking drugs, that suffering is due to the influence of pretas. And it goes on, like several verses on that, more and more and more and more and more. So he ends with, there are people who have fierce, dreadful disfigure and ghostly appearance, who have no regard or honor for their caste, progeny, parents, or womanfolk, who put on fashion to attract lusty person, go on an unpleasant way, and talk loosely. Alas, it is painful to see them suffer under the force of fate from the relocation of their past sinful deeds. There's more, but is the fact is that in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, one of the arguments that Arjuna put of the cause of the destruction of traditions, that one of the fears that he had with what was going to happen after the battle is that because with the lack of protection of society, there was going to be a collapse on all the Vedic traditions and rituals. And with the collapse of all these things that keeps a society connected to the moral goodness, then ignorance was going to take fold. And when society loses all that, then these all sinful acts becomes the prevalent thing, sinful activities. And with that, there is this proliferation of ghostly beings. People, ghosts. It's a reality. And the fact is that some of the symptoms of Kali Yuga are pretty much interconnected with that reality, as per, this scripture. So it's very much interconnected. So what is the solution that is given for Kali Yuga? Well, the Yuga Dharma of Harinam Sankirtan. We have the examples of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur dealing with ghosts. We hear about that. Especially, the reading or the recitation of the Bhagavatam and the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra dispels them, finish them. So, so to counteract a very ignorant, ghostly, environment, then the importance of Yuga, the Harinam Sankirtan Yuga Dharma is the most important activity that one can perform to counteract this whole thing. I stop here. Any comments or questions? Yes, Prabhu. Is it on? Switch it on.
Hare Krishna. Hello. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your class. You made a lot of nice points. what came to mind was based on your class. You kind of alluded to it, but what the direction I'm going to comment, maybe you could expand on it, is we see, generally speaking, that it's not just only when we die that it's possible to experience a hellish or ghostly life. Even while we're living in the body, it's possible to have a hellish mentality, a ghostly mentality, because as you were mentioning, some people are hunted by the ghost of wet dreams. That may not be a ghost, but also be just the modes of material nature also. But my direction I'm going with is something that to get us more in trouble is being hunted by the ghost of pride. And one example that came to mind is Daksha. When Daksha came in, a symbol of all the great personalities throughout the universe, they all stood up in respect for him. But there was only 99% people that stood up in respect for him, but there was only one person who didn't stand up, and that was Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva didn't do it on purpose, from what I remember. He was in meditation on Brahman, and he didn't ignore him on purpose. But he had a hellish mentality, even though he had 99% of everything going his way. There's a quote that says, we may be at the right place at the right time with the wrong mentality. And we can see that in Daksha. And on the other hand, we can see that Jesus Christ, Prahlad, Haridas Thakur, they're at the wrong place at the wrong time with the right mentality. So my question is that how does one give up this mentality of being hunted by the ghost of that everything should go my way 100%? Practically, we see in the material world that people, celebrities, and sometimes even devotees, we have so much, but yet when one thing doesn't go our way, we're hunted by the ghost of vengeance. I can't be peaceful until I somehow or other embarrass someone, get revenge, and we have a hellish mentality. So we don't even have to die to experience that hell. So how to give up that mentality?
Well, conditional life means that we have this bodily concept of life, false ego. And that's every living entity who is embodied have to deal with that. There's only two choices one can make. Either you have a progressive life in which your consciousness progressively elevates, or you have a regressive life in which your consciousness, goes down. There's no hovering. Either you're going up or you're going down. So the idea for human beings is that we should be in a process of elevation of consciousness. And if you're in the process of elevation of consciousness, meaning that simply means this: you're living under Dharma, the laws given by God. Dharmanstu shakshan prantam, Bhagavan pranitam. That the laws of Dharma are given by God. So if we actually, as human beings, if we live as human beings means you follow the codes of Dharma. Then, you go progressively, and these influences are checked, are controlled, are regulated. It doesn't mean that the influence don't exist, but they're regulated and controlled by, the laws of God. And gradually, one's consciousness progresses and elevates. So you go, your consciousness become, it's called the yoga ladder. That's what Krishna defines in the Bhagavad Gita, the yoga ladder. If one doesn't follow the principles of Dharma, then that becomes adharma. And then by living in a society or living a life, a dharmic life, means you expose yourself to all this stuff. So if you want to address, our lower nature, it's there, just by having, bodily concepts of life, that is there. But if you are situated under the protection of Dharma, then will naturally elevate. So basically it's just that. Is one have to understand that if you want a shot of having, a progressive life, then one have to accept and try to understand and learn how to live according to the principles that Krishna has given. So, and then we have plenty of that. Srila Prabhupada has brought it for us and gave us a system that is pretty much tailored for, our times. That is simple and sublime. And then these things get addressed. But if we don't have that shelter, then we are basically at the mercy of a dharmic, or a life that is, like that is guided by all kinds of ignorance and sinful things. And we've been indoctrinated to that, and therefore we are completely vulnerable to all these negative, ghostly elements that basically forces you even to go deeper into that thing. All these quarrels and things like that. It's all connected. It's a negative element of material life that is causing destruction and all kinds of suffering, hellish life for people. And just, we don't have to, just open a newspaper or whatever, open a website and read the news. Everything is miserable. So it's like that. Any other question? Giridhari, seems like you're churning something. Okay. Everything is right, everyone? Okay. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.